But from that perspective, I think it gives us a better picture, or we're better positioned to actually think about some of these questions.
Yeah.
So, like, let's get to it, right? Like, how much is enough?
Yeah.
Is pursuing money actually a moral end? And let me rephrase that question. Is it inherently a good thing or a bad thing to actually want stability, to want a house, to want things like the American dream?
Sure.
So from that perspective, how would you answer that?
So I sit in two very weird positions, right?
Okay.
So I'm from the Philippines. I grew up in, a developing country in the world. And so like we lived in the side of a mountain, and I remember the longest I ever went without electricity and running water was 30 days.
Yeah.
And so
I didn't believe you the first time you told me that.
Yeah,
but
that's not a
it's
lie.
true.
No, not a lie.
But
right?
it's true.
And so I moved to a country, where we're in America and where we live now in California, in Southern California, especially where the housing market is incredibly
Right.
high. And you have to make god-awful amount of money to be able to live comfortably here, right?
Yeah.
Like rent is super high where we live. And like those are just the realities that we face.
Yeah.
And so I have like this really my experiences are polemic, right, in their nature, meaning like on one side I have this extreme poverty that I've lived in,
Yeah.
and then on this side I have this extreme comfort that I now live in, right? Like I make no bones about it. I think my life is incredibly comfortable. Like I'm incredibly lucky, and I don't have any problem admitting that. So the position I try and take on this is the moment that I begin to feel money plays 1 ounce of a distraction from my walk with the Lord, I'm pursuing the wrong thing, right? And I say that because it's like 1 degree, right, off over a long period of time can totally
miles
screw
and
your
miles
trajectory,
away.
right? Yeah, there's some aviation rule. It's like 1 degree for every 60 miles you fly off is an incredible amount off
Wow.
course. So I think of that, and I say that to say like this is not an answer I think everybody can answer the same way.
Correct.
And I think it would be foolish to try and
To prescribe one.
and try and work that out.
No, that's exactly right. And so is money a tool or a weapon? Well, it depends whose hands it's in, right?
Yeah.
And I also think it's really important to understand that the relationship between blessing from God or abandonment or curse from God is not proportional to your
Yes.
wealth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so when you see poverty, for example, it is not necessarily a sign of abandonment from God, right? Like rather, most missionaries in the world and most Christians in the world don't live a cush lifestyle, right? And what's so important to know is that the value set by which prosperity is understood in God's eyes is not the same as our, 21st century American values.
Yeah.
right?
What gives me worship is the paradigm by which God is probably going to think about our interactions with money.
Exactly.
And somebody who's struggling, like where I grew up in the Philippines, like somebody who may not have more money than I may be dealing with that very issue, right? Like their worship being hollow because they're focused on trying to make money.
Correct.
But it's like, again, that's a very, very difficult position to kind of waft and labor in. And so anytime we make this like direct tie to the more money you make, the more blessed you are, no, it's not like that's wrong. That is a false gospel, right? I mean, you look at the person of Paul who was like crazy dirt poor there and was beheaded and spent most of his adult life in prison after he converted. And it's like, I mean, maybe not most of it, but he spent a lot of his life in prison. It's like, dude, that guy was poor as all get out, right? But the idea, like Paul's attitude is what I've tried to model my life on personally in my pursuit of money. Because I will admit openly, like one of the big reasons I became a pastor was because I knew that I had to make, for me, this all-in commitment to following God. I am very greedy, naturally. I'm very selfish there. I like making money.
Yeah.
I love all of those things. And those are all a recipe for not being a Christ follower there. Like you can't be those things. I can't marry those ideas. And so for me, it was like I either have to give all of it, all of my life, all of my existence, all of my money, all of myself to this and use that as my tithe and offering. Otherwise, I'm going to be a real selfish person and a jerk that nobody wants to be around. I'll be rich, but I will lose my family for sure. I won't be a good dad. I'll be a terrible husband there. And it's like I'll become a workaholic and work myself into an early grave.
Yeah.
And so for me, those are the stakes that I'm playing in.
Yeah.
And that's a really scary, and even as a pastor, I still like have to fight that,
Right.
And so obviously there's far more well-behaved people, right, in terms of people with better self-control. And let's not demonize anybody who's rich, because it's like the church doesn't run without wealthy people. So like people who are benefactors like Lydia in the New Testament, like praise God for women like her who had a house that the apostles could meet in. Like those people are great too. So that's just an important caveat to make.
No, that's super important. And so should a pastor be buying a $2,000 pair of sneakers. Like ultimately, right? I think you have to contextualize that.
Yeah,
and see like, hey, just because you got flagged on preachers and sneakers doesn't necessarily disqualify you or discredit you, right? And so context is super important for what's going on. And I also think a lot of times we're not privy to people's intentions.
Yeah.
Nor do we have full pictures of their context, right?
For me, I'm still like, I wrestle with that one a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, in Romans,
how much is too much for sneakers?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what the price is there for that, right? And that's why, like, that's why I agree with you that we have to be hesitant to put a label on there, because it's like, what makes somebody stumble? We want to remove all of those stumbling blocks, right? And so, but if something was given to me as a gift, right, dude? If Kanye gave me a pair of Yeezys, like, I would find an outfit to wear the Yeezys with, right? It's just like, it's not part of my normal attire,
right?
There, but it's like I would make that work.
Yeah.
There. So I think you're dead on. We have to be very careful about casting any type of judgment there, because we're then putting ourselves in the seat of the giver, right? Like, and that's a very, I don't know about you, but that's not
a hot
place.
Seat.
Yeah,
I don't want to be there.
I'm not trying to be there.
No. However, we don't have to apologize for saying, hey, the way we manage health has everything to do with our religion and how we view God. And not apologize for that, and still say, hey, although we're not apologizing for that, and don't hesitate, we still have to reserve conclusions about every specific situation.
Yeah.